What is something that all countries have in common? An act that many have fallen victim to for thousands of years. Everybody knows about it, but nobody talks about it. It's a dark secret that thousands keep inside themselves: sexual assault. People of a variety of ages, both male and female, have been sexually assaulted. The female sex trafficking industry is at its highest. In 2010, 38% of heterosexual females were raped, and they were only 18 to 24 years old. When they were first raped, about 28% of them were between the ages of 11 and 17 years old. But how does sexual abuse affect people's lives? First, let's take a look at some people who have experienced sexual abuse firsthand. It may come to a surprise that people who've experienced these situations don't go around protesting against their abuser, but many victims are often pressured to keep quiet. Abuse cases vary in severity. Oftentimes, TV shows portray victims as helpless and have very obvious signs of physical abuse. In moderate situations, victims dress and act like you and me. However, in severe situations where oftentimes one is being sold off, the boss or pimp is the person who restricts their ability to protest. The boss will often threaten their victims and make the victim feel as though they have to rely on that person for their own well-being.
It was my boyfriend. We dated for 4 years. Other than obvious things, it does give you a lot of very strong concerns, and you get really skeptical about a lot of things, and trust issues, and you just live with anxiety at that point. I did, yes. For a little while, yeah. Definitely my therapist, because I wasn't open about the situation at the time. So really my therapist was the only person that knew. I didn't open up to my family or anybody about it until after we'd already broken up.
Thank you.
Pretty close. He's my brother. And that was only the first time. And then other times it was just randoms I don't even remember. I just kind of closed it out, really. I don't like to remember the stuff of what happened. But the one that's ever really stuck with me is my brother, because every family event I see him. I don't really go out with my family anymore to go see my other family, because he doesn't live with us anymore. He's kind of kicked out, but it just, I don't know. I don't trust family now. I don't like being around certain people in my family. Every time I go to a family event, I feel like I have to look over my shoulder to make sure he's not there. Myself, really, I don't really have anybody. I would talk to one of my friends, but I'm not going to drag her along for Christmas and Thanksgiving. She has her own stuff, but that's pretty much how it all went. Now let's meet people behind the scenes who are helping victims on their day-to-day life to help them reform their title to something other than victim. Sexual abuse cases involve more than just a victim and an assaultant. They involve police officers, social workers, therapists, teachers, child protective services, lawyers, and more people than just one would ever truly think about. All who help the victims get back their lives and get onto the road to recovery.
Hi, my name is Juliana Camacho Simpson. I work at Northside Early Childhood Center, and I am a family resource coordinator. Before coming to the school system here in Shelby County, I used to work in Louisville at the Center for Women and Families, which is a shelter for survivors of domestic abuse and sexual assault. In my previous job, I was an advocate for survivors. I also help run the shelter. So on the daily, I would work with survivors. I would be a court advocate, so if there were any court cases, I would go and support the victims. And in the shelter, basically an advocate is somebody who listens to survivors, supports them, and also connects them to what they need. So I'm not a mental health therapist, but would do, I guess, do some counseling. So being a listener, support for this person, somebody who absolutely believes what they tell you. But oftentimes there'll be a sudden change in their personality. Sometimes they're withdrawn. They're not interested in the things they used to be interested in. There could be depression, anxiety, hyperactivity. Sometimes in children, or young people, it's like they don't want to leave school, so they don't want to go back to where, to home if abuse is happening in the home. But sometimes they just want to stay at school so that they don't have to see like their perpetrator. Other things that can happen to older people is there's like a sudden increase in suicide attempts, sometimes cutting, so like people can cut their skin for a sense of release. So there's a lot of signs you just have to know kind of to look out for them. Just because this is what's happening, like if somebody has attempted suicide does not mean that they're a survivor, but it can be a warning sign. Well, we're mandatory reporters to the state, so if we suspect that somebody is being abused or they have told us that they have been abused, whether it's just physical or sexual or even emotional abuse, we are mandatory reporters, so we need to make a report to Child Protective Services. So we make a report. You can do that over the phone or on the internet, and then the state will decide if they get involved or not to come help, protect this person, to see if all this is really happening. Are they safe? Can they stay in their home? Is this happening at their home or somewhere else? Yes. Well, so the Center for Women and Families is also here in Shelbyville. So I would recommend that to families. If it's a child that's experienced something and the parent comes to me and needs support for the child, there is child advocates, and what they do, it's a listening support system for the child. So sometimes children need to have somebody to listen to them that might not be their mother or father, because there is a lot of feelings, a lot of things that go into telling, like people knowing that you have been through something, and as a child you don't really understand all of it. So the Child Advocacy Group is a great program to help the child. They can come visit the child in the school if maybe the parent can't take them there to the center to talk. For the parents, same thing. I would recommend the Center for Women and Families. If family, there's for some people a lot of shame in all of this, and so there's hotlines. The center is the organization here in Louisville, Shelbyville. There's some other groups in Frankfort and other parts of the state, but they all have hotlines where you can call and you can be anonymous if you just need somebody to talk to. There's also the national hotline for survivors of domestic abuse and sexual assault. So there are many resources to refer people to, if maybe they just need therapy to process what they've been going through. But the family resource coordinator could be a start, or the school counselor as well, if the family wants support, within the school system. I think in this generation, right, like I guess since I was a youth, growing up until now, social media has really changed it all. I think the numbers are very high, right? I think I'm not 100% on this fact, but it's like 1 in 5 women will experience sexual assault or sexual harassment in their lifetime. And with social media, with the Me Too movement, I think people are really finding strength in numbers to come out and say, hey, this happened to me too. Where in the past, it was very, shameful. Like people were not going to say anything about it. And now with feminism, with women's liberation, and everything that's happening with social media, and the real news, people are coming out in numbers and speaking up about it. So I don't know if the numbers have gone up a lot. I think we see it a lot more, we hear about it a lot more, so it might feel like it's occurring more. But I think there's a lot of programs teaching people how to be safe. I don't know if you guys know about the Green Dot program, if you've done that in your high school. It's a local, not a local, I think it's national program where they go around and teach people how to be safe bystanders. So basically, if violence is going to occur, it's like, what's your green dot? What's your safe move going to be to stop the violence from happening? So it's not just for sexual assault, but it's for all types of violence. But that's something that's been very big, and they teach it at different campuses and different high schools. It kind of just depends on your school and what they're promoting. So I think there's a lot of resources teaching youth about reporting, about how to be safe. So I'm not 100% sure, but I think we do hear about it a lot more. So it's probably as prevalent, as it was in the past. It's just now people are talking about it a lot more. It's everywhere. So it doesn't discriminate. So it's not just in low-income families. It's not just in Black families or wealthy families. It happens everywhere. Any suggestions? I think to just keep going with the momentum that's been happening. So, not just the Me Too movement, but being able to find strength in numbers. Your body is your body, and you have a right to say no. And it's simple as no means no. I think the issue is, it's an issue of power and control. So you can say no, but that's not going to stop predators. I think just always having, turning to people you trust, always thinking about, don't facilitate your own victimization. So you really have to think about where you're at, what you're doing, who you're with. The youth, kids want to party, they want to have fun, they want to go out and do things that maybe they shouldn't be doing because they're young, but always have a safe friend with you. So if you're going to go to a party, you might be doing some things you shouldn't be doing, have that safe friend with you to make sure, I'm taking you home tonight. No, I'm not going to let you go home with so-and-so, or no, you're not going to go walk in the woods with so-and-so, things like that. Just thinking of safe things. This does not happen because people, were unsafe, but always having a safety plan. That would be it. Have a safety plan wherever you go. This happens in broad daylight. So think twice, know your surroundings, know who you're hanging out with, be extra careful, when you are starting to hang out with new people that you don't know that well, things like that.
I am Chelsea Windhorst, and I am the Student Assistance Counselor here at Shelby County High School. I am a school social worker, so they just give me the title of counselor, but my background is in social work. So, unfortunately, there have been students that I have worked with or met with that have experienced assault, and those are obviously very private cases, but they do exist, whether it's been assault from maybe like physical abuse from a parent or guardian, or assault from a relationship. Those things do happen, and I have worked with several students. So there's all kinds of different signs. There's physical, mental, emotional signs. So physical, obviously bruising, scars, scratches, anything of that. Emotional, we see people that start to become like reclusive. They don't want to hang out with their friends. They cancel plans. They're experiencing anxiety or depression. They're really, they get spooked easily. Maybe they don't like to be around people anymore. So some of the same signs and symptoms that we look for in someone who's maybe feeling depressed can also be emotional signs that we look for someone who's experienced abuse. So, if the situation comes to school and it's the first time the situation has ever been brought up, if the abuse has been from a parent or guardian, obviously we contact police or we contact CPS. Again, any kind of abuse or assault is one of those, scenarios where confidentiality goes out the window, because when you come to guidance, anything that you tell us is confidential, except there's always the but. If you tell us a few things, one of them being if someone else is hurting you, that is something we can't keep confidential. And so, if it is about a parent, we contact law enforcement, CPS, and kind of let them do their thing. And then our goal is to support students, let them know that they're loved and cared for, and help them in any way possible. If it's a relationship, if it's not a parent or guardian, also confidentiality is broken, and we will have to contact parent or guardians, so that they know, and then they can decide what to do with the student, whether they pursue legal charges or just if they want legal support. But our main goal at school is to love on you and to know that you're cared about, and to support you in any way we can.
How do you help people recover?
So what I just said, we offer resources. We hook them up with people that are professionals in this manner, because I am obviously not a professional in assault cases or assault victims or survivors. So resources, and then mainly at school is just love and support and family, and just offering as much of that as that we can to help you be successful and just to help you, thrive. I am not aware of the numbers. I don't know any of the specifics. I do know that the Me Too movement has brought a lot of light to sexual assault cases. It has really given women and men the platform and the courage to come out and talk about these events, and help them get support. So I'm not sure if I'm not sure of the numbers, but I am sure that this movement and that people are talking about this has given people courage to talk about it and to come out and get the help that they need, instead of keeping it inside of them, and not sharing because they were scared or what other reason. They were, afraid of any kind of retaliation that they may receive. So, as far as if you're looking at demographics or certain populations, again, I don't know the specific numbers or the specific breakdown of that, but I feel it's almost like drug addiction is that it doesn't discriminate. It doesn't care what ethnicity you are. It doesn't care what socioeconomic status you are. We have seen the research I've read shows, assault across all of those platforms. I know the Me Too movement came out because there was a lot of assault victims in the minority ethnic groups that felt like they weren't being heard, and so that was a way for a lot of minorities to be heard, and that's kind of where the Me Too movement started. But I think it happens across all classes of people. I think keep doing the work that you're doing. I think the Gen Z generation is going to be a huge factor in getting people support and continuing the Me Too movement and continuing movements just like that, because you're not afraid to be yourself. You're not afraid to get help. You're not afraid to talk to people. And so I think it's just continue to be courageous and do what you've been doing, and to love each other.
Before the advancement of technology, it was so easy to feel alone and isolated whenever you were going through any kind of abusement. Many people, men and women alike, sat in silence across nations and allowed the abusers to hold their power. Organizations like Me Too, Thorn, and Rain have become safe havens for those who need help, giving out resources and hotline numbers. People are coming together to take down sex traffickers, today more than ever. We are aware of the issue, that's sexual abuse. So, have you experienced sexual abuse or are currently being abused? Don't stay quiet about it. If you need help, there are many resources. If you want a hotline number, call 800-656-HOPE. Or if you don't want to call, you can go to rain.org with 2 N's and enter the live chat. You are not alone.